year it was. Okay, so problem number 1. This is for adding. Okay. Step 1 is that we start with the fractions. Step 2, we go to the whole numbers. And step 3 is anything that has to be renamed gets renamed. Those are going to be the same for adding and subtracting. Okay, so don't worry about putting your title, just get the steps down. Okay, so the first, just copy down the first question, okay, because this is all going to get sent to you. So the first question we're going to do is 1 4/5 plus 7 2/5. My first step is to look at the fraction part. The fraction part is nice and easy. My numerators get added. My denominators always stay the same. So I know I'm doing 4 plus 2 equals 6. My denominator stays the same. My denominator stays in fifths. So 4/5 plus 2/5 equals 6/5. I'm done with step 1. So now I'm going to go on to step 2, which is adding my whole numbers. I have 1 plus 7 is 8. Okay, so I did my fractions, I did my whole numbers, and now I'm up to the renaming part. I know that I already have 8 wholes. I want to see how many more wholes can be pulled out of the fraction part.
1 more.
Okay, I know that in 6/5 I could pull out a group of 5/5. Only one group of that, only one whole. So I'm going to add my one more whole, which is really, I'm putting it underneath so you remember, that's really 5/5. Once I pull my 5/5 out of my 6/5, how many fifths am I left with? Dan?
1/5.
I'm left with 1/5 size piece. Now all I have to do is put it back together. I have 8 holes plus one more hole. How many holes does that bring me to? 9. I have 9 holes. And then the fifths are just left by themselves. The fraction part stays the same because there's nothing left to combine it with. So after I rename, I did my last step, 9 1/5 is my answer. Okay, so now for our next problem, we are going to try subtracting with mixed numbers. So we are going to write into our book, the second problem that we're going to do is 5 7/8 minus 2 3/8. Okay, so my first step here is, when I look to my steps, step number 1 says, deal with my fractions first. So when I look here, I know first I use the numerators. 7 minus 3 is 4. My denominator always stays the same, so my denominator stays
8.
So I completed step 1. Now I move on to step 2 and I do my whole numbers. 5 minus 2 is?
3.
Renaming. I'm going to look at my fraction part. I'm going to see if I have that weird looking big number on the top in the numerator. If so, that's an improper fraction and I have to think and rename. How do I feel about this fraction? Good. It looks like a regular fraction. The only thing I do notice is some of you might be hearing a ding, 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 ding. 4/8. They're both even numbers, which means it can be simplified. So I know that 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. So I put this in simplest form. For right now, either one of these answers is correct. If you wrote 3 4/8, you would be correct. If you wrote 3 1/2, you would be correct, unless it said specifically simplest form.